Morning.
Okay. John?
Dale.
Adrian.
Michelle.
Justin.
Mary. Ross. Darren. Hamer.
And Bob. Oh.
Hear that?
Yeah.
Good. We'll put it somewhere. Okay. Well, same old story. We don't teach you anything here. We don't tell you anything. Understand that. Because when you understand what we're pointing to, you'll realise that nobody can teach you anything and nobody can tell you anything. Purely and simply because what we point to is what they call non-duality. And non-duality means, they translate it saying it's one without a second, not two. Haven't put that second onto it. And I don't mean a split second, I mean second is the other. It's the one essence patterning, expressing, experiencing as everything. And there is no separation in it whatsoever. But we've taken on that belief that everything is separate. We've taken on the belief, the idea that we are separate entities, individuals, persons. But have a look at nature itself. Does nature know anything about duality? The Earth say I'm going to roll around the sun. Does the sun say I'm different from the Earth and I'm going to appear in space? Or the planets? Or the seasons? Say this is winter, this is summer, or spring. There is nothing out there at all that is anything other than the one essence vibrating, patterning, expressing as everything. And there is no problem with that. Nature doesn't have any problems. It's constantly renewing and expressing itself, ever fresh, ever new. Presence awareness. Presently, hasn't got any time, no static point to it, no self-nature to it. It's just functioning spontaneously, effortlessly, and naturally. Look at us, look at the so-called human species. All the psychological crap that's going on amongst us. Wars, depressions, guilt, shame, fear, anxiety, all problems of relationship, Terry. Going on. Have you got... Didn't last long, did it?
You want to sit here?
Jane?
You want to sit here?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No.
You'd have been out on the road, Tony, if you'd have moved down there in the first place.
No, I'm a naughty boy.
He's a naughty boy.
Yeah. Very selfish naughty boy.
Sorry. I have no self.
Oh, good. That's great. You've passed the test. Yeah. So we've taken on this belief that we are these separate entities, individuals, persons, and we've taken on the belief that everything around us is separate, all separate and different from what we actually are. But to investigate and see for yourself. Because, as I say, we can't teach you anything, we can't tell you anything. All we do is point toward and ask you to look to see for yourself. Because all these patterns, shapes and forms, that's all we are. Patterns, shapes and forms. They call it in Hinduism Satchitananda Nama Rupa. Existence, consciousness, bliss, name and form. The Nama Rupa are name and form. And they tell you clearly that the name and form are Maya, illusion. Only appearances, a phenomenal manifestation. The dictionary definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So it's all only appearing. And it's got no time form at all to it. We believe it. Thousands or millions of light years and all that sort of thing, and these bodies of so many years of age and all the rest of it. But when you investigate and have a look at time, you'll see that time's a mental concept also. There is no such thing as time. Time is past, present and future. But is there a past if you don't think about it? And is there a future if you don't think about it? Stop thinking right now. Can you say there's a past? But you'll try and tell me I was in the past. But see, prove it for yourself. Can you live a moment ago? Can you live last week? Can you live yesterday? You can't go back and live a moment ago, but you can recall it. Just like you can remember your dream. Sometimes you can't remember all of it, you remember parts of it. But the dream is not the actual anymore either. You say, I was in the past, try and live a moment ago, you can't. But you can recall it. By remembering it, you recall it. And the only time you can recall it is right in this present moment. To prove that to yourself, if you're not, you can't tell me what you were thinking a minute ago now unless you're recalling it. It's already gone. The same with the future. You can anticipate and imagine the future. What you're going to do when you leave here and next week and all the rest of it. But you can't actually live a moment in the future. So when they tell you you've got to try and stay in the present, I'll tell you can't get out of it. The actuality is only this present moment. That very breath you're taking it presently. And the heart's expanding presently and contracting. It's all happening presently. And present is just another name for time also. So it's all spontaneous. The whole manifestation is spontaneous, constantly transient. The Nama Rupa are transient. And look at that and see that body you walked into the room with is not the same body you walked in the room with. Cells are dying in it right now and being replaced. So you can't live anything but actually in this presence. And understanding that and recognising that will take a lot of the dramas, traumas, sensations you've labelled fears and anxieties and stresses off. If you are just this present awareness. And that's what they tell you in Buddhism. They put the label on it as non-conceptual, ever fresh, presence awareness. They say it's ever fresh, ever new. If it's spontaneous, it can only be ever fresh and ever new. And it's immediacy in this moment. So what do we need to look at? This idea that we are this person. Where does this word person come from? Doesn't it come from an ancient language, Latin or Greek or somewhere on those lines? Meaning persona, the mask. So that's what we've got. We put this persona, this mask of concepts on ourselves and take ourselves to be this mask. I'm Bob, I'm a good fella, I had a bad child, I'm unhappy. They're all concepts, dead concepts, that I put onto this present spontaneous functioning, label it as that, and take myself to be this person, this persona.
You can speak up a little bit. I switch off the heater because I can hardly hear you. Just speak on the wall.
I can hardly hear myself.
Yeah.
My voice sounds hoarse, I don't know what it is.
Lots of water.
Yeah, have some water.
We can hear. Fine.
Can you?
You can do better. Just, yeah, he can do better.
Got good hearing then.
So we need to investigate these things, to see for yourself. And as I say, all these patterns, shapes and forms are just like reflections in the mirror. Have a look at that mirror behind you. What do you see? You see that mirror is full of reflections. Now you can't say they're not there. But try and grab a reflection out of the mirror. Go up to the mirror and see if you can grab a reflection. All you'll grab is the glass. You won't grab a reflection. So you can't say they are there. So all these patterns, shapes and forms are the same. They are only conceptual or mental images appearing as reflections in the mirror. Are you this body, mind, entity? Are you this person? Where does the person come from? This persona, the mask? And just a label we put on it. A word. And we're told that the word's not the thing. And realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt, been picked up along the way. You were not born with any words. And understand also that the word is not the thing. The word is only the label we put on things. And we take ourselves to being this conceptual image, this label. We put about ourselves, I'm Bob, an Australian, a good fella, not so good. All words. You were not born with any words. So we've taken on the belief that we are this body, mind, this persona. Are you the body? Innately, you already know you're not the body. Because don't just say my body, my mind. Don't just say my house, my coat, my car, my shirt, my dress. You know they're not the coat, the car, the shirt or the dress. So maybe you're not the body either, if you call it mind. The same with the mind. If you believe you are the mind, show me a thing called mind. What can you show me that you can say, this is mind? And you realise there's nothing there that you can grasp and say, this is mind. Vibrations or patterns of forms of energy or form as feelings, emotions, ideas, thoughts, images. But are they what you are? Are they the mind? They're only images and concepts. You can't say you are this body, mind. And you'll say, I was born. But can anyone actually remember your birth? No, you can't remember your birth. You can't remember your birth. How could you when you didn't have any words to translate it at that stage? And you didn't learn any words till you're about two and a half. So it didn't begin, as far as you know, the beginning for you was when you learnt those words. It tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. That's all that God is, isn't it? A label we put on things. All things were made by Him, by the Word. There was nothing that was made that wasn't made without the Word. Have a look at that. And you can realise you've got labels on everything at the Word. And you didn't have any labels on yourself or on anybody else until you learnt the words. So you can't say you began and recognise your own beginning when you learn words at whatever age it was, about 2, 2.5, a bit earlier, a bit later. You can't say you began. But we'll go back and question it and see. Go back as far as your father and your mother. That pattern, innate intelligence energy that you call your father, enabled through the essence of the food he's eaten, the breath he's taken, in that pattern, enable a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see that sperm with your naked eye. The same with the mother, the same life essence, intelligence energy, pattern, shape and form. That pattern you call your mother. In that pattern another microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form in that pattern. That ovum was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. It swam to the ovum, had the capacity of swimming, knowing it just wasn't just another dead blob of goo. It had the capacity of swimming. And the ovum had the capacity of fastening onto the wall of the uterus. And the sperm swam to the ovum and penetrated the ovum. And doing that, the innate intelligence in it doubled that cell, redoubled it, and the little embryo, the little fetus, began to form. What were you doing about it then? You think you're running the show now as this person. What were you doing about it then? When you didn't have a brain or a body, it was bones and things were formed, were just forming. And the innate intelligence knew what to do. It formed that little fetus, little embryo. And even when you were born, you didn't say, now I'm going to fasten onto the nipple, now I'm going to take my first breath. You couldn't say those things. But the innate intelligence enabled you to do those things. And it's been living you, breathing you, and expressing as you ever since then. But you had no idea you were the person. At about the age of 2, 2.5, somewhere around that age, the capacity of reasoning developed in you. And that's a very useful capacity that human forms have. Capacity of reasoning. It's much more developed in the human form than what it is in other animals, birds or insects. But they have other capacities more developed than our capacity of reasoning is, that they utilise. The capacity of seeing in a bird, for instance, is much more developed than what our capacity of seeing is. The capacity of flying, it can fly. We can't do that naturally. But through the capacity of reasoning, which is very useful, we've learned to build ourselves eyeglasses, binoculars, or telescopes that enable us to see better. Through the capacity of reasoning, again, we've learned to build ourselves planes, helicopters, balloons, or whatever, that enable us to fly. So the capacity of reasoning is useful. A dog has a sense of smell, the capacity of smelling is much more developed than yours and mine. Chameleons and other insects like that can change colour. We can't do that naturally. All sorts of other things develop and shape and form through the capacity of that intelligence functioning, natural intelligence. but they haven't got the capacity to work things out to the extent we do with this capacity of reasoning. So it's a useful capacity. But because it's a vibration, it always vibrates in the interrelated opposites, it's self-destructive also. At one end of the scale it's good, at the other end of the scale it's self-destructive. And that's all this. I don't use the term God here, because you can get confused with that term. I use the term intelligence energy. You can get confused with it because everybody comes from different backgrounds. Some of you can be atheists, some of you could be agnostics, some of you could be Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, or whatever. So it's hard talking about God. You're related to what your traditional belief is, and you won't hear what I'm saying. You're going to be confused with it. But I use the term intelligence energy to express it, and that's not it. That's not it at all. It's just the label that's been put on it. It's just the label God has been put on. And look at that term God. Every tradition's got a different idea or a concept of what they believe God is. In the Hindus, there's 1,000 names of the gods, and one of the chants they do. And everyone has different names and different labels for God. So that's why I don't use it. I use the term intelligence energy. And with intelligence, I don't mean your intellect. I mean, look out there in nature and see that the nature's fashioning, shaping, forming and expressing implies it is suffused with an innate intelligence for the earth to roll around the sun, the seasons to come and go, the planets to form and stars, and planets to move around, comets and all the rest of it to go on, tsunamis and things like that all to go out. Seasons to come and go implies that nature is suffused with intelligence. Galaxies are forming out there. Implies intelligence. And realise it is the same intelligence that's living, patterning, shaping, forming and expressing through you at this moment. It is that life essence that's living you, that's breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair and your fingernails, digesting your food, replacing cells in your body. What are you doing about that if you think you're running the show as a persona? You realise you couldn't take another breath without that life essence. You can't think your way into taking a breath. And see the way it vibrates. I tell you, it vibrates in the pairs of opposites. Look at the way you're thinking. You're either in the past, which is memory, or the future, which is anticipation, imagination. Two seeming concepts of time which take you away from this present moment. And in that past and future, it's either good or bad, pleasant or painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. Have a look at the way you think and realise that's the way you're thinking all the time, dualistically. No wonder we can't keep up with life and keep with trying to work out this non-dual thing that they talk about and can't realise or recognise or feel liberated or free while we're functioning constantly from the divided viewpoint, the separate entity, the individual, the persona. So you'll never get realisation or liberation by looking for it in the mind, because the very mind that you're trying to get it through is the mind that keeps it going. And there is no such thing as mind unless you think about it. You can't show me your mind. And if you ask yourself, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? And try and step over the thought and look beyond it. Without the thought, what can you say? You realise you can't say anything at all. You can't say it's good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. You can't say any of those things. But you'll realise I'm still breathing, the heart's still beating, hair and fingernails are still, the livingness is still going on. Just the same as life is going on out there in the universe. The earth continuing to roll around the sun, the seasons coming and going, the tides coming in and out, just the same as the same essence is vibrating, expressing through you as you. But the only thing that formed the problem is you're taking on this belief of separation. With that sense of separation is isolation. You've isolated yourself as something you think can stand alone. Separation and isolation. With that comes insecurity and vulnerability. From that time on, we've become insecure and vulnerable, and that's when our search has started. What are you seeking? Aren't you seeking to become whole, complete, liberated, realised, free? Why hasn't it happened? If you're so smart, and if this mind's such a wonderful thing, why hasn't it happened? You might realise after looking at it for a while, you'll never ever find the answer in the mind. Because the nature of this thing called mind, to vibrate, is to vibrate. And it's constantly vibrating, constantly, always has, and always will be until the life goes out of that pattern you call a body. And the ancients tell you that. They'll tell you there's no such thing as peace of mind. That's what you're looking for, liberation, freedom and peace. But there's no such thing as peace of mind. The mind can never be the peace because it's constantly vibrating. And the ancients will tell you the peace is when the mind is not. When you go to deep sleep at night and the mind's in the bones, isn't there peace there? Well, you can't say anything about it, you can't say it's anything other than stillness and so on, until you start to dream. They say there's no such thing as peace of mind, and peace is when the mind is not, and that's what they call the peace that passes all understanding. What is understanding? Understanding is to try to grasp something with a concept, with a thought, with a feeling. This is not natural, spontaneous knowing or understanding. You won't find it in the mind. So we need to look at this mind. Look at the word. All these words we've learned, we've taken the word to be the real. We're thinking of these words we've learned, and we think the word is real. But is it? Investigate. Take the word water. Is the word water the real? Is the word water water? Try and drink it and see for yourself. Try and swim in it. Wash in it. You can't. Take the word fire. Can you cook with the word fire? Can you heat yourself with it? Can you burn yourself? Take the word this. I forget them all now. Any word you take is not the thing. So what's this word I or me? Is that what you actually are? The word? And what we've done with this word, you can't do much with I or me. With the capacity of reasoning and the parents fussing around you, you begin to learn words from it. They tell you, little Johnny, you're little Billy, or you're this, that, and the other, and you're a good boy or a bad boy, you've had a, you do this or do that. And you start to reason, this little Johnny they're talking about, this is me, this is I, because that's another word you've learned from your parents. So, I am little Johnny. When little Johnny looks out there a bit further, he says, that doesn't fit little Johnny with his capacity of reasoning. That's not little Johnny. So that's not I, or that's not me. And that's when the sense of insecurity and vulnerability dawns on him. If that's not me, and he becomes insecure about it and very vulnerable. He doesn't know what it is. So he's fearful and anxious about it. And that's when our search begins. And we're seeking to become whole or complete, but our parents don't tell us to question your true nature and see for yourselves. They tell you to look out there, acquire, amass, add to, whatever you can to make yourself more complete, more whole. They tell you that because they've never learnt otherwise themselves. Get a good job, get a good education, a better home, well, a good relationship, a better car, add, accumulate, amass. But have you ever seen the millionaire that's accumulated or got enough to make them happy? Or are you ever satisfied with what you've actually got? Not for very long at all. So we're constantly looking for acquiring the message. And the parents tell you that because they're no learner. But down through the ages, there's always been some, a few of them, that have recognised their true nature and started pointing out. They haven't had means of communication we got today that can point it out to many through the television and everything else and the computers and their education we got. They only had a few to talk to in a village and pass it on to a few, and they might pass it on to somebody else and gradually acquire something that wouldn't see it as true nature and add to it to suit themselves, put different concepts on, and these great religions are formed around them. And what have we done? We've taken these beliefs to be real. And what we've done is we've worshipped the messenger and lost sight of the message. Because the message is there when it's in its purity. It's always been there. But we've lost sight of it and gone into the messenger. The messenger is going to give it to us. Or if we belong to this religion or this thing and do this meditation and do this book or do this, that thing, we will become realised. But don't you realise what you are is being. You are a so-called human being. And if you believe in this thing called God, you call that God the Supreme Being. That's the one. So you've got the Supreme Being and the human being. What happened if you took that label or concept off Supreme and you took the concept off human and try and separate the beingness in this room without a concept? Instead of being Bob, Bill or whatever your name is, there's just pure being here if you take the concepts off. And you realise that's being a carpet also, that's being the chair, that's being the tree outside, it's being the space. Everything is that being. And this is what they tell you in Hinduism. Satchitananda is being, existing or being. You are that being right now. And you're not unaware, so you must be aware. You are that consciousness or awareness. And you are happy to be. So you are already that. And that's the Mahavakya, or the great mantra, I am that. And innately you know that in our language also. That's the chair, that's the carpet, that's you, that's me. Everything is that which we've put labels or words on and lost sight of the actuality of it and taken the label or the word to be real. But as I pointed out, the word's not real anyway. So the conceptual image you have about yourself, which we form, and we relate to everything with that conceptual image. So that image we've got of ourselves, I'm Bob the Australian, a good fellow, or a bad child, or I'm unhappy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm introverted, or I'm fearful, I'm anxious. An image made up of concepts, and they're all dead images now. They're not the images of the present on, they're past images. What's your image about yourself right in this immediacy before you form a concept? You've got to relate to the past image you've got about yourself, the dead image. No wonder we can't keep up with life, because life is ever fresh and free and new. The conceptual image we have are dead. They are yesterday's images, they're last week's images. So we're always lagging behind. Using an analogy like pulling a bucket of water out of the river. You put the bucket of water on the bank, it's dead, it's become stagnant, it doesn't move anymore. What's happened to the river? The river's constantly flowing on. Might go through places where it's flat or pretty even and it's hardly moving, or it might go through sandy banks or forests, or down through chasms or whatever it is, or cataracts or falls, till it flows, rejoins the ocean again. But it's constantly ever fresh and ever flowing. It's with life. But that bucket of water is still on the bank, dead. And that's where we are while we're constantly relating to this dead image. It doesn't have to be that way. It's quite simple. It's simpler than what we realise. Because if people that form the religions have put all these concepts and ideas on them, giving you something to do, something to work out, again. Instead of turning around and recognising it for yourself right here, right now, that you are present, you are existing, you are not aware, you are aware or conscious, and you are happy to be. You are that Satchitananda. And you cast off the name and form, the concept, image you got about yourself, the name and the form. Get rid of it. That's what's causing all the problems. You can know it. If you know it, it's not real, you can still label it and say this, that and that out about it. Just the same as you go down to the oceans, okay, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea. You'll say, don't be ridiculous. You know, if you pull a bucket of water out of the sea, it won't be blue. The water is not blue. It never was. It doesn't stop you from, you know that, you've investigated it. It doesn't stop you from admiring the blue sea when you see it. What a beautiful blue sea. Saying it there, it's seeing it as blue, but you know the truth about it. And that's the scriptural statement. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What are you free from? Free from all these beliefs we've taken on. And look up that word belief in your dictionary. The definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. That something is all these things you put these beliefs on that you haven't questioned. Acceptance of an alleged fact, not a proven fact, but an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Now you've seen the water in the sea is not blue. You might have believed it was blue until you investigate it, you see it's not blue. So you don't believe it. You believed in Santa Claus at one time. Didn't take long to wake up to that. And you don't believe today, but you'll still make up a Santa Claus for your kids because you know they get pleasure out of it and joy out of it. But you know it's not a fact. The blue sky, another one. The water in the mirage, the snake and the rope. All the many different things I tell you about to investigate and see that the conceptual image is not the real. So you are not this conceptual image. And the thing is to investigate it and see. Have a look and see how it works. When something comes up, and you say, oh, I see. Because that conceptual image we take it on now, it has become the reference point. Everything is referred to that. The self-centre becomes the centre of everything, or the ego. Reference point, self-centre and ego are three aspects or three different layers for the one thing. And everything becomes relative to this reference point, this self-centre, this ego. And relativity is relationship or dualism. Relativity is dualistic. So all our problems are problems of relationship, relativity. People have a lot of trouble with that, the male-female relationship. That's the big problem. It's not only a relationship we're relating to. And you say, if you're while you're relating to them, that will always be so. But when there's a natural recognition and coming together of what you're naturally attracted to and merging with it, and you're not functioning from the point of view of relationship or relativity, your life becomes a lot easier, much happier. And you recognise that sense of presence, the bliss or the love of being, the love to be. How does it work? We'll see. Something comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, you immediately relate it to some past event, condition, or experience. That's what we've done. We've added on to this pure intelligence, this conceptual image, a group of concepts. I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, not so good. That's the conceptual image of it. Something comes up, and I relate it to this, some past event, and it was good. How do you know? Well, I had this experience, it was good. We don't want the good things to go. We want to keep the good things there. Not realizing no matter how much we love them, how much we want them to be there, how much we want to keep them, they're going to change because it's transient. Everything is changing. You realise that I pointed out before? You know, you haven't got the same body you walked into this room with. There are cells dying in it right now, right at this very moment, and being replaced. Not one or two, but thousands of them. They're being replaced, renewing itself. But we relate to this dead image. I like it. We don't want it to go, and we try and keep it there. How do you try to keep it there? Because we resist it. To try and keep anything, we try to hang on to it, stop it from going, resist it. With all our mind, with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our being, we want to keep these good things. Not knowing, not realising, no matter how much you love them, how much you want to keep them there, they're constantly and certainly going to change. And you don't want, when in this resistance that comes up, what is resistance? Resistance is conflict. If you are resisting anybody or anything at all, you are in conflict with it. And this conflict makes you fearful, makes you anxious, makes you unhappy, jealous, envious, whatever, guilty, shameful. Conflict makes uneasiness, and another term for uneasiness is disease. You're not at ease, that's disease. So resistance, conflict and disease is going on constantly until you recognise your true nature. Throughout that you might have small, short periods where there's been recognition, where everything's fallen away for a moment and you've had a clear insight for a moment or two, but it's come back again. And what we've done, instead of going back to where that clear insight was and remembering, reminding yourself, we continue to focus into the dead image of the past and reinforce it. Something comes up again, this one I don't like. I've had this one before and it's terrible, I don't want it. I've got to get rid of it. So what do? I resist it again. This time trying to push it out, trying to get rid of it. Again, the conflict and disease. That's all our life continues. It's a continuous conflict, resistance, conflict and disease going on. There's no peace in that. There's no constant joy or that. All the sensations come up which are labelled. Thought, feeling and emotion are one and the same thing. Different aspects like steam, water and ice are one and the same thing. Steam, very subtle. Water, a bit less subtle. Ice, material, matter. Thought, feeling and emotion. Have a sad thought right now, you can't burst into tears. But leave it there for a little while and then the emotion will come up. The feeling or the sensation. Oh, this is sad, this is terrible. And then the emotion, the tears will come. Thought, feeling and emotion. That's what's going on constantly in us, all the time. It doesn't have to be that way. The only way out of it is to recognise that the only problem you've ever had and ever will have is relating to this fictitious image, this conceptual image. Me is the cause of all my problems. It's only a me that can be unhappy. Only this conceptual image that can be unhappy. Only me can be angry. Only me can be depressed, guilty, shameful. Me is the cause. And the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the remorse are the effects. It's all that so-called karma is. Cause and effect. Got a belief in the so-called karma. What if you ask yourself the simple question, can there be an effect if I'm not relating to a cause? Well, test that out. What can you do if you're not relating to any cause? What can you say about this present moment if you're not relating to some cause? realise you can't say anything about it unless you see something out there that you think is wrong, you believe to be wrong or unhappy, or you've got the conceptual image of it. So it's possible to recognise this karma for what it is, cause and effect. There's no such thing as karma without thinking or feeling it. When the thoughts become the feeling and the emotion, it makes the karma something real. Thoughts are nothing but words, concepts, ideas, images. Now to have a look, everything is relative to this conceptual image. Something comes up, I just pointed that out, didn't I? Something comes up, I like it. And then something comes up, I don't like it. Constantly going on. Now you need to look and see if this ego or conceptual image is the actual. We ask yourself to look along these lines, see for yourself. Everybody is seeing right now. Everybody is hearing. Isn't that so? Mm-hmm. You opened your eyes this morning. Did you say, now I'm going to start seeing? You didn't. Didn't have to think your way into seeing. The seeing was there immediately. And you mightn't realise it, but it's the same seeing you had this morning. It's the same seeing that's with you right now. It's the same seeing you had last week, last year. You'll say, it can't be the same seeing. Yes, it is. It's the same seeing. The seeing hasn't changed. But the concepts have changed. Content has changed. The content of the seeing has changed. It's changing right now. You've got a different content to what it was when you woke up in your room this morning. You came along here on the way here, you had a different content. The content is changing right now. You're seeing moves, changes in this room. You see that cat jumped in the window. It wasn't there a minute ago. It won't be there in another minute. Content is constantly changing. The same with the hearing. Woke up this morning, did you say, now I'm going to start hearing? The hearing was there. And it's the same hearing you've had all along. The hearing hasn't changed. But the content has changed. So the seeing and the hearing are changing. And it's the same, you mightn't realise, but the same thinking you had yesterday, last week, last year, as far back as you can remember when the thinking first came upon you when you learnt words. The thinking hasn't changed. But again, the content has changed. The content is constantly changing. Seeing, hearing, thinking, all these things are taking place. Ask yourself this. Does my eye tell me I see? I'm saying I'm seeing, but does my eye tell me I'm seeing? I see. My eye can't say I see. My eye can't tell me anything at all. Can yours? Your eye can't say anything at all, but the seeing is the instrument. The eye is the instrument through which the seeing is happening. And it's translated by that instrument the thinking process, which labels it I see. But it's not a pure seeing anymore. It's me, Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, the conceptual image, now thinks it has the capacity of seeing. This egoic image now thinks it can see. The same with the hearing. My ear's not saying, listen to this, Bob, that's good, or that's bad. My ear can't say anything at all, but it is the instrument through which the hearing is happening, translated by that other instrument, the thinking process, which tells me I hear. But it's not a pure hearing because now it's me, Bob, the Australian, thinks it has the capacity of hearing. So the thought I see comes up and the thought I hear comes up. Investigate a little bit further. Can that thought I see actually see? Can a thought see? Close your eyes and look around the room and see for yourself what you can see with a thought. And you realise you can't see anything with the thought. All you'll see is the darkness behind your lids, but you won't be able to see any of the objects in the room, this room with your eyes closed. So you see, the thought I see, you can't see. Same with the thought I hear. Put your hands over your ears, blot your ears out. See what you can see with the thought, with your ears blocked out. You can't see anything with the thought. Are you unaware right now? And you realise, no, I'm not unaware. And you realise I've been unaware. I haven't been unaware all this through this. So if I'm not unaware, I must be aware. But it's not the thought I am aware that's telling me I'm aware. The thought I am aware is not your awareness. It's translated, the awareness is there, which is with you right now, and it's translated by the thought I am aware. Just the same as I pointed before, the thinking is happening. But the thought I think is not the thinker. The thinker is the thought I think. The thinker and the thought are one thing, but thinking is the actuality in which those two concepts, thinker and thought, appear in, just the way as the seeing and seer, subject, object, are happening in the seeing. The seeing is the actual. The seer and the seen are conceptual. So the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, the ing on it is the actuality. Not I see, I hear, I think, I taste, I touch. That's all egoic. That's all conceptual. That'll get you into trouble, problems. So the thought I see can't see. The thought I hear can't hear. The thought I choose. We think we choose our thoughts. Why the hell would you have an unhappy, an angry, a fearful, or an anxious thought if you could choose them? That's why we always said years ago, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself, for this conceptual image, the self. And he says there isn't one. And that's the fact. There isn't a self. There's only one self, not a personal self. It's the one self that's shining, expressing, patterning as forming and expressing as everything. Non-dual. And you are that. You've always and ever have been. Why don't you take it on board instead of functioning as these separate entities? You've been there long enough. Had enough sadness and fear and anxiety and stress. But it doesn't have to be that way. So that's what you need to do. Look and say that the thought I see can't see, the thought I hear can't hear, the thought I choose can't choose, the thought can't do anything else. So the ego is a fiction. But have you stopped seeing? If you're not relating to me or I, have you stopped seeing? Have you stopped hearing? If you're not relating to me or I. With that thought paused right now, have you stopped tasting, touching, smelling, breathing, heart beating? So you realise this functioning is going on. If it's not related to this egoic, conceptual, dead, past image. Continue to do it if you feel like it. But it's not necessary. That's what I point towards and ask you to look and see for yourself. So you got any questions or arguments? There's people here that have got a pretty good view of this, recognising it. They can add to it, point to it if they want. If you've got any question or argument, got anything to say, bring it out. Unless you question it and see for yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to come along and punch you between the eyes and your third eye and wake you up, or hit you on the head with a peacock feather, or go to this satsang and chant this mantra and all the rest of it. It might make you give you a sense of settle, not locked into the stressful thinking if you keep your mind one pointer for a while, but it's not going to give you the recognition, the freedom. As Shakespeare told you years ago, he says there's nothing either good or bad but thinking makes it so. And recognise that as a fact. That's the way thinking functions. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad. If you're not thinking good, is it such a thing? If you're not thinking bad, is there such a thing? Or is it just as it is? As is means unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. And Nisargadatta tells you the same thing in different words. He says, nothing can trouble you, and he means exactly that. Not a thing in this manifestation or anywhere else can trouble you, excepting your own imagination. Imagination. Break that word down to image in, imagine. And realise that's what we're doing all day. We're making conceptual or mental images, putting the labels on words on them, believing to be real, taking them on board, and suffering accordingly. So there it is. Get into it.
I'll just add one thing. We had a conversation yesterday with a lady from the other side of the world who's watching us on YouTube. And she wanted to thank everyone, express the love and gratitude for everyone who actually contributes to the meetings, because she's not a seeker anymore, she's clear. But the way we actually have the meeting, where everyone who ever understood something contributes, and through different vehicles, there are different angles of that realization. And if someone is really resonating and is not worshipping a messenger, and that lady, she actually said, she loves everyone here who opens the mouth, asks questions and answers questions, because it always brings slightly different angle. And even though she doesn't need it, she just loves diving into it, into those different angles, because even if there is no search anymore, the realization is fresh and new, moment to moment. So anything anyone adds, you may even feel that this is irrelevant or stupid, but somebody somewhere out there in the world will pick the frequency of the realization, because it's always only the one expressing, and that take her or him deeper into that blissful, non-destructive, non-distraction state of plain being. So it was just a love and gratitude from Canada.
I just like to say that I really liked it's the same scene, and it's the content just constantly changing, and how the ego wants to own all those things by putting labels on it. And if you take the labels off, and it just keeps changing and arising. So same scene, same hearing, because the content is constantly changing.
Yeah.
I've got a question. When I'm listening to this, I really feel where it's hard to put words, the space, and I feel the simplicity of it. And years ago, when you talk about the feather donged on the head, when I was like 16, my auntie's very into spirituality, and I had the feather donged on the head by Guru Maya Shikvalastananda. Yeah. And my auntie's always talked about an awakening being like Kundalini rising, and that's always been slightly frightening to me, that there's some kind of combustion or some kind of and since then I've had a very long journey with reading and understanding, and over the last few years I've been interested in non-duality, and it's been coming to me with through Byron Katie, reading her texts, and then just coming upon you, Bob, more recently has been just like and so coming to these sessions and watching the YouTubes just makes so much sense, but there's still this niggling thing that there's this terror that comes with awakening, and that's dissipating completely for me. But I'm just wondering what your experiences, or what you think about that, or what advice, or
Well, have a look at this. What's the so-called Kundalini they talk about anyway?
what is it?
What's the Kundalini?
Well, I don't actually know. It does just seem like
Well,
a
Bob's
different-
going to tell you.
Okay, great.
Well, They call it Shiva Shakti in Hinduism. Shiva is the static aspect. Shakti is the dynamic aspect. Shakti is the female aspect. Shakti dances in the world. Shakti is just energy. That combustion you think frightened of is just energy. You breathe, the body's pulsating with energy right now. There's energy all around you. All intelligence. So you've got nothing to fear.
So there's no the energy's so strong that, the heart can't tolerate it, or the actual physiological body.
Well, the fear of it the heart might be able to take the fear of it if you're fearing something that hasn't happened yet. So it just might be
so
worse.
that's just a story.
Energy is life.
Yeah.
Nothing to fear about energy. It is life.
Yeah.
And if we're getting the full force of life through these bodies, you'd be blown apart years ago. Just like the same electricity is going through its globe.
Yeah.
If you full charge through it, it's only got a certain amount of wattage it can take, is it? But the whole charge would blow up in tsunamis and God knows what explosions. But you've got enough to come through to liven you, and any more that's needed, open to it and let it express.
And maybe that's why, for some of us it takes a long time. Some people it happens spontaneously, whatever it is, and I know that that's just words, but it's, maybe we just come to it in our own pace.
Well, it's not, you won't come to it, your
That's
pace.
right.
It's going to take you where it takes you. It's brought you all along. It'll take you through it. It took me through certain periods and certain, and each one, I went through and believed in it and went for it wholeheartedly until I saw there was no more need for it and moved me into something else.
Yeah.
Till it can't move me anywhere else.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And another aspect is that even if there is going to be a huge outburst of energy or whatever, the realization is very often just dropping off things, not getting things. Yeah. But even if that is to happen, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't control it. And anticipating it and imagining it is what Byron Katie says. You want terror, take future. Future moment and imagining how bad it can get is basically just, and you poison your body with the cortisol and adrenaline and with all the hormones that go with it. And the truth is we have no control how it happened, when it happened, because it doesn't happen to us. It happened in the absence of us. The consciousness just bursts through when the I is not.
So it's not a matter of acquiring anything, it's a matter of discarding it all, going back to your natural state, as in nature.
And if I can just say, the Kundalini is an experience happening to a me. So, it's a me sitting, meditate. Bob's actually had that experience when he used to meditate, the energy rising in the spine, But it's still a me sitting and meditate. So meditate on the meditator. There is no, there is none. There is no meditator. And so, but yes, you can hear all these stories about enlightenment, awakening, Kundalini. They're all stories relating to people out there that, like Bob said, he believed what he was doing at the time. And he really, went with it wholeheartedly, including when he sat, and meditated. And but then the pure intelligence energy that you are, or that he was, or that we all are, moves you to another place. But it's the place you never left. That's that beingness that you are. But yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the story, because
can be quite
because the story is about a me in a place and time, which is time is also a concept, and then there's this fictitious me in a place and time, which is also another story, and then it has a response to that, and that's the false evidence appearing real, which is fear. So it's story, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and that's sort of, I think, where things are shifting in groups, there's something that is more like relief than fear. It's more like, oh yeah, it's nothing to do with me. I'm not really even here, or something.
Yeah, that's good, that's good, yeah.
And
There's
ju-
also a There's also a story that this self, through enlightenment, is going to die, or I'm going to lose my persona because there's no self. So there's no self. The self might sort of, that fabricated, or that self you believe yourself to be, is that going to go? There can be a fear around that as well.
That's right. That's right.
and the other thing too is there's no prerequisite. There isn't. Okay? So this doesn't come about because I sat in meditation for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or this doesn't come about because I experienced some sort of kundalini awakening or some sort of energy that rocketed up through the body.
Yeah.
Yeah? It doesn't come about for any reason. There is no prerequisite. There is nothing that me can do
Yeah.
or practice.
There's no peace of mind, as you were saying. Bob.
There's nobody there, love. There's actually nobody there.
Yeah.
So even the idea I must go off and do this or I must experience that, yeah, it's the same as I must go and visit my psychologist and chat through my shit. It's the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, it may seem or appear to be helping, yeah, but all it's ever doing is it's helping the man. But at some point, that's all got to stop, and then the real investigation has to take place. You come into a group like this, and you're told there isn't a me. I remember the first time I heard that, I went, "You're crazy." What do you mean there's no me? You know. But if you're exposed to this long enough, and you literally start to look for yourself, instead of grabbing this stuff as a conceptual idea, yeah, pigeonholing it with intellect and going, "Yep, I've got that. I understand that bit. Now, what else do I need to learn?" It's not that. Although, often that's a process that we tend to go through. Yeah, I was thinking before, you know, like when Bob was talking about the seeing and the hearing, yeah, and that as soon as this pseudo self steps in and claims ownership of the seeing and the hearing, it's akin to the seeing and the hearing that we experience in our head. Now, it's really interesting. Like, are there eyes in my head? No. The eyes are here, and they seem to see out. Yeah? And I've got ears here that seem to also hear. But they hear stuff that's out here. Sounds that are out here. Yet, there's somehow the capacity to see thoughts in our head and hear thoughts in our head. What instrument is being used to do that with? My God, what instrument? Seriously. Is it my ears that are literally, like if I utter the word house in my mind without verbalizing it, I can hear it. Or I could say, close your eyes and imagine a green apple. You can see it. Is it my eyes and ears that are actually seeing that? Yeah. And it's from that, or from that conceptualized persona, that person, that's what we're seeing from. That's what Bob means when he says we're not really seeing, we're not really hearing, we're seeing through this. Yeah. Yeah. Often you hear people say when they awaken, or whatever terminology you want to put on it. Yeah. Often you'll hear people say, "My God, I saw a tree for the first time in my life."
Yeah.
Like really, saw it without seeing it with that. And we don't realise that what we're doing is that we're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching and smelling in there.
Yeah.
We're missing this total, beautiful absolute moment right here, right now, with the real senses wide open, not the imagined ones. And they're all imagined. You know, I can imagine, I can almost smell, excuse my French now, but I can almost smell, if I really go there, I can smell what shit smells like. In my head, I can. Yeah. You can experience when you're asleep at night, dreaming on your bed, yeah, body's not moving, sound asleep, in a dream, they're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, orgasms, fear because someone's chasing you with a knife, you know, all that stuff. And whilst we're in that, whilst the dreamed me, the dreamed character is in that dream, it all seems real. It seems totally real.
Physiological responses.
Everything. Yeah. The same thing is happening here. We just don't realise it. And that's why this is often referred to as the waking dream. It's a dream. We just don't, and it's waking to that fact. And when that is absolutely seen and it drops, here you are.
And is
Where
it,
you've always been, by the way. Here you are.
Is the experience, and I think I'm answering it while I'm feeling it, but is the experience you can't go back to sleep?
No.
Once you've...
No.
That's right. And the truth
It's not.
eats away the lie.
It would be like, I mean,
Right.
You're dreaming, but you know you're dreaming.
Yeah, so you,
Or-
it's a,
there's not even there's not a you there dreaming,
yeah,
but you understand
That the you isn't.
that the water's not blue.
Mm.
yeah. So it's just your five senses are working, you're operating, you're moving about,
That's right.
but there's not much buy-in.
But that's incredible. See, that's what's always been happening.
Yeah,
The movement, even the movement of the body,
yeah,
where it ends up throughout the course of the day and what it does,
yeah.
yeah? That there's not you doing any of that. Like zero, zip, nada. But what happens is me steps in and claims ownership of it.
Naming and claiming.
I'm doing it. I'm doing this. I'm deciding to go here and so on and so forth. All of that stuff just happens anyway. So in the absolute collapse or the dropping of the personal entity that we take ourselves to be, when that drops, all the action still continues. Then you just sit in the box seat and watch it. Like really. You're just completely aware of everything that's happening. And of course, you would be aware of everything that's happening. You are that. In the absence of a me, all that's left is pure awareness or beingness or presence or whatever label we want to put on it. And again, it's just a label. Yeah.
Did you want to add something? Bob wanted to add something.
Mr. Alcaraz tells you, you are dreaming a dream you call the world. He says, stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is that you love one part of the dream and not the other. He says, love all of it or none of it, and the rest will be done for you. And that's all that's ever happened throughout your life. The rest, as it's happened, has been happening for you. You've never done anything.
See, even this search that's going on, I want to get this, I want to wake up, or, you know, I want to improve myself, or want to better myself, whatever, yeah. Okay? That's exactly the same as your dreamed character when you're asleep, when the body's laying on the bed at night, and there's a dreamed character in the dream, okay? And what it's doing is it's going to this sat scene, and that sat scene, and it's sitting with this teacher, and it's reading this book, and it's studying this and studying that, and so on and so forth. All because the dream character wants to wake up.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can the dream character experience what it's like when the body wakes up in the morning? Can that dream character experience being awake, literally being awake? When you wake up, I'm talking about the dream character when you're on your bed at night asleep.
Yeah.
The dream character in that dream, can it experience what it's like to be awake? What happens when you wake up in the morning?
It disappears.
Hello?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the same. So the idea
Yeah.
that this is me,
Yeah.
which is the dreamed character,
Yeah.
trying to get this,
Yeah.
whilst there's seeking, whilst there's wanting or acquiring, you stay asleep.
Or questioning.
It'll just,
Yeah.
the dream character stays in place. Totally and completely stays in place.
Yeah.
So at some point, you know, there's a stirring, if you like,
Yeah.
that starts to happen just before you wake up in the morning. And there is.
Yes.
There's a stirring that starts to happen. And that stirring can often happen just by sitting in this room.
Yeah, very much
It
so.
can, yeah? So there's a stirring that starts to happen. Okay? And in that stirring, you start to become aware that it's a dream.
Yeah.
You start to become aware that this persona, this person that I believe myself to be, is a dream. You literally start to become aware of that. And whilst that is happening, if you just sit and watch that, really, really observe that for yourself. You have to look for yourself, okay? If you really, really start to observe that for yourself, as you start to stir and you start to awaken, if you like, from that dreamed character or from that dream, a wonderful thing happens. There's a shift, let's call it a shift of attention, okay? The attention shifts from being focused on the dream character
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
which it has been for as long as you can remember. Yeah. Instead of that happening, there's a natural shift that happens, and all of a sudden, the attention shifts to the presence, the awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's then that kind of happens for a moment, you know, and you might be encouraged to abide there, be there, be with this here-ness, be with this presence, be with this nowness. Okay? Now that sounds like I'm asking a me to do that, and I'm not,
Yeah. Okay.
because it's not a me that wakes up. It's not a me that wakes up. You've got to get that.
Yeah.
Okay? What happens is the me drops.
Yeah.
It completely collapses. Okay? And what you're left with is waking.
Yeah.
Even this communication, I'm not talking to you.
I
You
can
think I'm
feel
talking
that.
to, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what happens in this room. Yeah. Bob starts off with, I'm speaking to that I am that I am. Or another way of putting that is, I'm speaking to that presence that I am. There's presence here, there's presence there. That's what's being communicated to,
Yeah.
not the me. So if you like, it's that awareness that wakes. Because it's the awareness, because it's a singularity that's responsible for everything, including the dreamed me,
Yeah.
including the dream that happens when you're lying on your bed at night sleeping.
Yeah. It's much cleaner and clearer than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
Yeah.
It's really, it might, you know, it's so simple
Yeah.
that we constantly miss it.
Yeah. Recently, I've been having the experience of slightly waking literally from a dream, and not quite sure if I'm awake or asleep. And it's this sort of strange thing. Then when I am awake and walking around the house, I think, am I awake? I'm wondering if it's this, or it feels like it's. It feels like it's this transition or something. I don't even want to put a label on it.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying. I can feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's always this. Like, look, if you look at these cats that are roaming around here, the only difference between us and the cats is that the cats don't have the narrative self. They don't comment on anything. They're just spontaneously seeing, but they don't have reasoning capacity, which makes a separation, the original split subject-object. This is not me, and this is me. I'm the subject, this is an object. So the only difference for being identified as the human form is to have that narrative self that comments on everything. The action is the same. That we are walking just like cats, sniffing, smelling, seeing, hearing, just like them. But we have the commentary. So the moment when you actually disbelieve your commentary, and again, it's not you doing it, when the belief drops off, when Bob was saying the belief is unquestioned acceptance of something, we never questioned, but we accepted that my identity ends here with that skin, or maybe a little bit outside if I believe in auras and stuff like this. But this is what I am, and this is what I am not. That's separation. That's the original split. And this is because mind vibrates. It always divides, categorizes, and that's a wonderful capacity, is to be utilized and used. But once that capacity is applied to myself and I start categorizing myself, separating and dividing and isolating, of course the suffering comes. But using the mind without applying it to any identity, any shape and form to myself, I am the space-like awareness, and the mind is my tools, the eyes are tools, everything is just a tools that is being naturally used. That's the freedom, because then there's no one to suffer.
Yeah, and that's something I got today, that's a new thing I got today, even though I probably have heard in other forms, but that the mind vibrates, and Bob, you were saying there's no the peace of mind. You can't find peace in the mind.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, yeah. Even you've probably said that before, and I've heard it. I heard it differently today. Yeah.
And I think what happens is, you know, there's the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, responding, thinking, all those. It's just the functional, or the functioning. The functioning's happening, you know. And it's just a, I don't know.
No functioner.
Nobody does
No
it.
functioner,
Yes.
and you become more aware of how everything is just functioning, you know. Or there's no you to become more aware. But what I'm saying is there's awareness of a recognizing of the emptiness that everything appears upon, and the responding, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. You know, it's like the action figure. You know, and I love what's said sometimes here too is if you're watching, you can't be the thing that's being watched. You know, so there's just the watching. You know, and the thing that I love is the thing that breathes me at night when there's no narrative self. That's the thing that breathes me. In the day when there's a cognizing of the narrative self, you know, but you don't have to name and claim it. You can just watch it, you know. And like Bob, you're still functioning in the world. Everything's still happening, but there's no resistance because there's no resistor.
Thoughts are no longer the enemy.
Yeah, that's right.
Your thinking and the story and
It's
the narrative
just what is.
It's not actually an enemy or something that has to be stopped. It's actually the functioning of, and it's fantastic. As Bob has said, everything in this room, everything in existence that we use was once a thought in somebody's mind.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's actually, instead of being held ransom by this labelling and we are the story and we are doing that, it's actually that it's just spontaneously occurring and we can really engage with it and it becomes very dynamic.
That's right.
Yes.
It's sorry.
And you think you said before, you will become, there's no becoming. When there's clouds fall away from the sun, does the sun become more clear, or is it clearer? It's only the clouds of thoughts that are contaminating when they fall off, and the feelings, and it's naturally more clarity there. Or not more, it's total clarity anyway, but even that thing. And the other thing too, Deborah was saying about the five senses, and you were saying about the five senses. That's a Buddhist saying also. Be utterly awake means being totally awake with the five senses wide open, where you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, all awake to each and every one. But nowadays, that's why we function. We're in the hearing or the seeing to the exclude. Although the others are still going on in the background, they're not noticed. But it says be utterly awake when the five senses are wide open. It also says be utterly open with unfixated awareness. With that awareness and not fixating on one to the exclusion of it, but you're ready to, you're open to a flip to whichever one is there. There might be things you could be seeing when you're thinking of something else, or could be hearing, or but if it's
That I find that very grounding as well and opening, if that makes sense, because in the learning, there's also there was a time when it was, well, you don't exist and nothing exists, and I get that now to be the self or the me, but that just became another concept. So to have the five senses open and only the words you just used then.
Unfixated.
Unfixated is that it's hard to say it makes sense, but it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think when there's a fixation, there has to be a me. So when we have a fixation, we're fixated on a person, place, or thing, all relative to a me. So basically, if that happens, we're in the story. We're naming and claiming again. So when you see that, you go, oh, there it is. You're just watching it. The minute you see it, the minute you cognise what's enabling the seeing of that, there's a relaxing into it. There's there it is, and just I don't know. It's hard to describe in words.
You can also check for yourself too, from the me's perspective, or rather from the me's experience. It can't actually experience all of the senses wide open at one time. Try it. It can't. It can. You'll find the attention will shift from one sense to the other. It just does. It shifts from one to the other, from the perspective of dual.
Of mind, yes.
Mind,
Bob wants to say.
that's why it needs to be unfixated, so it can flit. But you'll notice, you can hear somebody talking in here, and you'll hear a car going by. That other sense is still recognising, or a cat meowing or something like that. You hear these other things, but if we're totally fixated on the one, we're not noticing how they're being heard or recognised in the background.
Yeah, mind will miss it, but the nature will not. That's why they call it natural state. It is natural state like in nature. And they also, Buddhists call it Buddha nature. And they say that Buddha nature, everyone already inherently has, whether they realize it or not. It's just too simple, because when we try to conceptualize it and grasp it and get to it, it gets obscured by the very activity of thinking, because it is what is prior to the thinking. It's too simple.
Yeah.
And there's probably moments too that you may have experienced in your life. Perhaps, I don't know, you've been out on a bushwalk or something, and you come across this cliff, and there's a spot for you to sit, and it's just the most amazing view. Like, it's mind blowing. More to the point, it's me blowing. So, and what happens is the me just completely drops in that moment. It just happens. Yeah? It just drops in that moment for the sheer beauty of what's being seen and heard and breathed in those moments. So in the absence of the me concept, all the senses are wide open. They are always wide open anyway. It's just that we're perceiving the senses through an artificial person.
Narrator.
Yeah? Or we're perceiving those senses through the character in our head. The character in it, the one that can see a green apple when it closes its eyes. Yeah? Or the one that can hear the word house when it's uttered in the mind. Yeah? So we do experience this, and we have experienced it. We just haven't known what it was at the time. But we experience this just overwhelming, We've all had that. Yeah? We just don't realise in that moment we're absent.
That's very free.
We're absent. We just don't. And how could you realise it? Because if you're completely absent, there's no one there to realise it.
Yeah, that's the paradox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah.
I just wanted to add something because that can be confusing. It doesn't say, I think what you mean, Terry, this is that if someone is, let's say, constructing the bridge because he's an architect and is imagining a part of the bridge, it doesn't mean that it's relating, it's a pure functioning. So it doesn't mean if you can see the apple or hear the sound, it means that you identified as a person. No, it's a part of the way the mind function. The moment you get identified is the moment you create a relationship. This is my apple, I like it, this is in my head. Or this is my bridge, this is better than yours. The relationship, because imagination, same as categorizing, segregating, comparing, this is all spontaneous activity. It doesn't have to be related. Like Bob, he doesn't relate to the ego, but he can still go to the shop or go to the restaurant and pick out something from the menu because because the comparison and the imagination can happen. But the relating, yeah, you're right. We 2 minutes over time. Come and give Bob a hug.
Okay.
Thank you for that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm sure this is what you meant, Terry, didn't you? Because
Yeah.
you often...
Yeah.
So, start from the fact that you are already that. And all you got to do is discard what a semen comes up that you can't take as you. Yeah. You're already that, always have been. That's all there is. Some essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, expressing is everything. Banky says that everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn Buddha mind. Why exchange the unborn for thought? That's what we do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.